Hello, and welcome to the Cadillac News Quick News Questions with the Cadillac News. My name is Siri from the Digital Media Production class at the Wexford Missaukee Career Tech Center. I'm joined by Matt Seward from the Cadillac News. So, Mr. Seward, we had some pretty cool stories this week in the Cadillac News. Let's start with the PFAS story. What happens when there's double the amount of PFAS in your blood, like the man in the story?
Yeah, that is a great question, and it's one that health officials don't have a lot of good answers. They do believe that if you have a pre-existing condition, it can make it worse. But as far as how does it create health problems, they don't appear to be sure. And the man in the story, who has elevated PFAS levels, health officials basically told him to have his blood checked twice a year, and the idea is that they would be able to catch problems that might happen, that might develop over time, whether it's with his kidneys or liver or someplace else. So it's kind of unfortunately wait and see. Once PFAS is in your blood system or in your body, they don't have a treatment to get rid of it as of yet.
How do we prevent it from happening?
Well, it's hard because PFAS is actually in a lot of consumer goods. And as we'll find, there is some level of PFAS obviously in the environment that's been introduced into the environment. So if you suspect that, especially if you have well water, if you suspect that you may have PFAS in your water, should have it tested. There's other, consumer goods, whether it might be some cleaners. I believe nonstick pans use PFAS, and if your pan has nicks and scrapes in it, you may not want to use that pan anymore. So the best thing you can do is just limit your exposure.
Are there other people affected by this? Do you have a number?
Well, we don't have a number yet. There are agencies in the area that have been asking to test wells, and there have been some testing. We don't have a figure. I think there's been a request to test 70 wells, and I don't know how many have actually been able to test. That have allowed testing, how many they've actually been able to test. So we don't have numbers yet, and that probably will take a while before the actual number comes out.
Let's move on. So the butler teacher in the weekend story, why does he butler for his students on lunch?
Well, what he's trying to do is improve their academic performance and their civic performance, such as and that means if they see a student that's struggling, helping that student out, caring for other people. So they get rewarded with, I think they're called gold slips that they can cash in. And with those gold slips, they can get things like candy bars and little things like that. But he also rewards them by basically being their butler at lunch. And that could be, going to get their silverware, their napkins, having their cafeteria card punched, that type of thing. But he does it to improve their academic performance. So if they do well in tests or, get better grades, then they have a chance to have him be their butler for lunch.
Mm-hmm. Next up, about the homeless walk. What nonprofit groups participated in the walk?
There were several, and unfortunately I can't remember their names, but there were several that were involved. This is the second year of the walk. It started obviously last year, and there were a few more people, so it is starting to grow.
How has it impacted homeless in our community?
Well, it's raising awareness is the main thing, and I think it's starting to work. That's working because there is more of an emphasis or notoriety of homelessness in the area. It could be that homelessness is increasing too, so it's being more visible. But the homeless walk, there's been some task force that have been looking at how to alleviate the homelessness and other ways to address it. So I think it's having an impact.
About the election, how do you cover an election at the paper?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. So, we're a local newspaper. We're a family-owned small newspaper, and we cover, the greater Cadillac area, Wexford, Missaukee, Osceola, and part of Lake County. So what we do is we really focus on local elections, and if there's a local race such as city council, for instance, we will send out questionnaires to the candidates that are running, and we would run the questionnaire, the question and their answer. We don't cover national politics or really state politics other than at the local level. And what I mean by that is if there's a candidate, let's say President Trump came to Cadillac, we would go to the rally, and if he wanted to do an interview, we would do an interview. We've done that for Mitt Romney ran, 2012? He was a candidate. We had a chance to interview him. We obviously took that chance. When former President Trump was in Cadillac in 2016, we covered that rally. Also in 2016, we got a call from Bernie Sanders' campaign, who was running for president at the time too, to cover his rally, but also to sit down with an interview with him, which we took. And we don't get those opportunities very often to talk to presidential candidates. But at the U.S. Senate level, Elisa Slotkin was in Cadillac, so we took the opportunity to interview her. If Mike Rogers would have been in Cadillac and we had known about it, we would have certainly covered that as well. So we really focus on the local aspect. And we try to generate our questions by asking residents what do they want to hear from or what questions do they want answered from the candidates. So we think that's really important. So it's not the reporter coming up with their own questions, which some people may think is biased, even though the reporter would have, they're covering a community, they know what the issues are in the community, such as, we know PFAS is an issue in the area right now. So we would ask certainly state, national candidates about, PFAS regulations and different programs that would be or potentially could be available to help clean up PFAS in the area. So that's, in a nutshell, how we cover it. But we really could go into many more details. Do you have any other specific questions on how we cover the elections?
So I know everyone has their own bias and stuff, but how do you remain impartial when you're covering the elections?
Yeah, well, with reporters, I know it's hard to think that we can separate ourselves, but we really can, because we really look at how different issues in the community come up, when they come up, and we cover them. And so we have questions that other members in the community already have questions, like PFAS, for example. And you bring out a great example where we ask, what do you know about health, the health impacts? So we could ask a candidate, one of the big questions are, how can health issues be addressed by exposure, after you get exposed to PFAS? Are there any programs that if you are exposed, that you could go into, that the government would pay for or sponsor, that type of thing? So that's really kind of how we get the questions. And then our answers, we try to always get them verbatim. And that's why, when we send out a questionnaire, it's really easy to do it that way, because we just take their answer and just run that verbatim. Though we do ask them to limit how many words they are, because there are some politicians that could go on, for a long time answering one question. It's not really something that we could get the whole answer right. So thinking of elections and thinking from your perspective, how can we do a better job, or media in general do a better job of representing your voice, or other students here's voice in the election, and what they're looking for from candidates?
I think interviewing the students and asking them, maybe doing a quick short story in the newspaper, where you're just reporting on what the students think and stuff about the presidential candidates, because we at this age, we can't vote, but we still all also have our like opinions on the matter and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
And
it's going to impact you eventually in the next 4 years because, and certainly it'll impact you right away because of, the policies will impact you. But then in the next 4 years, you will have the opportunity to vote. How do you think we should cover issues that affect you and your classmates?
I think just being more involved in the whole like school and stuff could definitely help. I think maybe you could also like open up like a questionnaire for students and they could answer that and see like all their thoughts and opinions. And I feel like that could offer some better coverage for the students in Cadillac and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And certainly, if you guys have suggestions, you can always contact us. We're open to that. So feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email or even stop in. We appreciate it. So, what about how we write stories?
For me personally, they can be a bit too long-winded. I feel like a lot of our like generation right now, we're used to like short form content.
Sure.
So I feel like getting like straight to the point and stuff is what a lot of younger people are looking for.
I think that's a great observation. We hear that it's not just younger people. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you. When I read some stories, I definitely want them to be more to the point as well. So, that's a great point. Sometimes we do kind of trip over our own feet trying to make sure we get all the information in that we can. It can be hard for a reporter kind of pare down some stuff because you want to make sure that you explain it. And with the newspaper, we can explain it maybe more in depth than when we can in a quick news update. We can't really go into much detail. But there's sometimes some great detail that could be left out, and certainly left out in a quick news update. But in this news story, and then we can go a little more in detail. So we probably need to look at how we can be more concise there, though.
Well, thank you for answering all of my questions today. Is there anything else we can look forward to in the next issues?
Yeah, certainly. We have Veterans Day coming up on Monday, and because of that, we don't have a paper on Monday. But we do have coming up in the paper this weekend, which covers the long weekend through Monday. We'll have some stories about area veterans, a current service person serving in the Navy. We also have a special section on Veterans Day. And we're also covering another PFAS meeting today. So we've got that coming up. And there are some, another story about homelessness. And of course, in sports, we still have some playoff games that are going on, so those will be covered too.
Thank you for answering all of my questions today. Where can we pick up the newspaper?
Sure, you can go online at CadillacNews.com. You can pick it up at newsstands. It's throughout the area that we have it. You can also come to the Cadillac News office in downtown Cadillac, or you could subscribe to the Cadillac News